All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm excited to bring you guys another shoe review. Thing I've been trying to do, I've been really interested, all the super shoes are a really interesting topic in running and provide a lot of interesting discussion. We've moved past that first phase where all of these shoes have just come out, they're a big thing, and now a lot of these companies are putting out second iterations or newer versions of their shoes, offering different technologies, different materials for some. But also, the more important thing, and something that I like, is that it gives an opportunity to pick up some of these older shoes or the previous versions for a discount, which is a big deal. Especially, I love running, but there ain't nothing footing the bill for the shoes that I'm trying or using. It's all coming out of my pocket, so I'm always interested to try things are gonna save me a little bit. The more recent shoe that I got a chance to try, and I was really excited to get my hands on this, is the Saucony Endorphin Pro. So, as many of you know, I'm sure if you're coming and hanging around here, is Saucony has put out their second line. So they have the Endorphin Pro 2, the Endorphin Speed 2, and the I think the Shift 2 is also coming out if it hasn't already. But the exciting part is now that the second line is out, these are on sale. So I was lucky enough, my local store helped me out. I was able to grab these for $150 compared to their original retail cost of $200. So the new line is now out at $200, giving an opportunity to pick these up at a lower cost. So I was kind of excited to try these out, and hopefully you'll enjoy the video. So one of the first things to consider is the weight of some of the shoes, and I kind of took an approach where I was looking at, I really want to do a thing on clearance super shoes. I think there's some really great options. The Endorphin Pro, the Carbon X is another one where they put out, the Hoka has put out their Carbon X 2, so you can get the Carbon X on a discount. And also the New Balance RC Elite, since they put out their RC Elite 2, you can pick up the RC Elite at a discount. So the first thing that I wanted to consider, of course, is the weight of some of these different shoes. So the Endorphin Pro is currently in a men's size 9, 7.6 ounces, the Endorphin Pro. The new Endorphin Pro 2, they cut 0.1 off of there. It's 7.5 ounces in the same size. So really not too big of a difference there if you're looking at what's the big difference going from the Endorphin Pro to their newer one they put out, just that 0.1. If you look over at the next percents, because I think that's always something we compare to, Nike's kind of at the forefront with their shoes really dominating the marketplace. Though the next percents, I believe, are 6.6 ounces. That's correct. The next percent ones are 6.6 ounces in the same size. And the next percent twos picked up a little bit of weight, 6.9 ounces. Always, I think, an important comparison with Nike being such a big player in this market, kind of being one of the premier companies putting out these carbon fiber plated shoes, seeing a lot of other athletes using these shoes. But then also for other shoes of similar nature, so like I said, the RC Elites, which are now at a discount, those are about 7.3 ounces in the same size, men's size 9. And then the Carbon X, which I'm just going to put on the camera because I did get a pair of Carbon X's. I was really excited that I was able to find a good deal on these. Are boats in comparison, 8.8 ounces. So these are definitely a lot different than a lot of those other carbon fiber shoes. But just to get an idea of different weight, so the Endorphin Pro comes in a little bit heavier than those Nike options in the next percents. But underfoot, I can really say I noticed the difference. The weight definitely becomes a player as you get a little bit further into your runs. And I have a pair of the next percent ones, and I could definitely tell it's pretty noticeable. I personally think that this midsole is going to last a little bit longer, but we'll see how that pans out. So after considering the weight, we can start to get into the parts of the shoe and the things that I, the specifications of the shoe, and then things that I was considering when I was testing out the shoe. So the upper, I believe it's there specifically says Formfit Mesh is the upper, and one of the biggest things I could say about it is it's very breathable. They've got these vented holes cut in. You can actually see through to your foot. It does breathe really well, and I know it's been really hot training around here. I put these through a tempo run this past weekend, just 3 miles, nothing too crazy. I know these kind of can be marketed towards longer stuff like marathons and things like that, but generally is like a road shoe. I'm not really training for halves or anything like that, halves or full marathons. Maybe sometime in the future I'm going to consider it because I'd really like to, put these shoes to the test over those distances. But for the time being, I'm mostly training for like 5K. I'm capped at like 10K. But I can definitely confirm these do breathe really well. I noticed it when I did my tempo. I was getting out a little bit later in the day. It was getting up into the 80s, but with the humidity, it is pretty daunting to say the least. But fits really well. I really like the upper. I don't really have too many problems with it. But as I go into some other parts, I'll talk about one of the things that I'm not like super keen about with this shoe. Looking at the tongue, we do have a fully gusseted tongue, so you can see it's stitched in on both sides here, which I think is really nice. I really like it. Helps, it gives it that like sock feel. Like when you get, if you've ever worn Features or any like specific socks or like Balegas, there's socks that are meant, it's got a right and a left and you got to put it on the right foot because it's contoured. Like you kind of get that feel from the tongue. And I'm a big fan of that when you're going for a competitive shoe. When you're getting out there and you're racing, you want it to come and lock down onto your foot. You don't want any room for it to move around. And I feel like that tongue, with the fully gusseted tongue, does do that. There's no padding, which is pretty standard for like racing competitive model shoes. They're not going to give you too much padding under there. But the laces and everything, no issues. Don't really get any kind of like lace bite or anything like that from tying it down. But I still haven't quite found the perfect combo of like how to tie. Like I've messed around with like getting a little bit tighter towards the front of my foot, coming back, loosening it up here, and messing around. I haven't quite gotten it where it's perfect, where I put it on and I just know for a fact that I feel really comfortable. And I feel like I've kind of heard that from some people, but that's my personal experience with it too. I could tell the difference, and I'll come back to the next percents just because I feel like when I do tie this down, although I'm not a big fan of the upper on the next percent, when I do tie it down, I do feel that it keeps my foot in here. And then I think, and I'm going to actually talk about this next, is the heel counter. So you get a very soft heel counter. There's really not too much holding it there. It feels good, but one thing, and I feel like this has to do partially with the lockdown, and Nike has this in the next percents, and some shoes, I made just the heel collar maybe, but I really like Nike has this little like pad that comes around, and it goes just underneath your ankle bone, and I feel like that helps your foot just sit into the shoe a little bit better. And that's something that I thought is interesting. I haven't seen it in tons of shoes. Actually, looking down here, totally random, I have a pair of Beacons, and it's got this little bump out. You won't be able to see it because it's dark, but it has a like I don't know if there might be some foam in there, but it bumps out, so it goes just underneath your ankles, the ankle bones, and it just sits under there, so it can't lift up past that ankle bone. And I feel like that would really help with the lockdown. So that's something that maybe that could be partially why. But otherwise, like as far as comfort and everything, it feels good. There's not too much extra padding. There's a little bit extra padding up here at like the top of the heel, but otherwise pretty standard stuff. It's not enough for me to say I wouldn't buy the shoe. To say that, I would definitely put it out that way. Did I miss anything? Oh, I mean laces are pretty standard. They don't give you anything special. They're laces, whatever. They don't come untied. I haven't had any issues like that, and I only usually like single knot my laces when I go on, like when I wear these, so no issues with that. But yeah, cool. So the next thing we'll move on to is the midsole, and one of my personal favorites. There's no way he would watch this video, but Ed Bud, one of my favorite YouTube shoe reviewers, when he did his video of these, I really always enjoyed him doing the very just monotone coming in. The PWRRUN PB pellets. The PWRRRUN PB pellets. PWRRRUN PB pellets. So, so you have the midsole. If you haven't figured it out, it's that PWRRRUN PB, like these P-Bax pellets that form the midsole. You can see it's kind of all, you can see them, it's like separated. I would almost kind of compare it like from looks. It kind of looks like the Adidas Boost material, where you kind of see like all these little separate beads in here. This is the thing that I really like about the Endorphion Pro is this midsole. It's soft and it's definitely smushy. Like I did some durometer stuff outside with it too. It's definitely smushy. You'll see it when you if you look, I moved around my feet, shifted my weight in the shoes a bit. It's squishy and it gives you some back, but it is not like it doesn't feel super mushy underfoot. Huh. Like it's like marshmallowy, but not completely. And I think this is something where when I get a chance, if I get a chance to run in like the RC Elites or the RC Elite 2s, like looking at that fuel cell material where it's like really, really, really squishy, it looks like. I feel like this is kind of like somewhere in between where I do still feel my foot like sink in, even when I'm just walking, like it sinks into the shoe. But when I'm getting up to those paces, like when I put it through and I did my tempo the other day, like it doesn't feel really smushy. It still feels responsive underfoot, which I think makes it a kind of a nice option if you're doing just road stuff. You're training for 5K, 10K, you're hitting road races, you're not out there hitting a half marathon or a full marathon. It still makes this a viable option for your longer workout days, and then even doing races at, you know, on the road at the 5K or 10K distance. I think it's a good option. It features their Speedroll technology, which is kind of their version. You know, Hoka has the Meta Rocker. Asics kind of has something similar. Everyone's got a little thing that's kind of talking about how it's just bringing you forward, and that carbon fiber plate is going to also help with that. But so you have that carbon fiber plate sandwiched somewhere in here in that midsole. PWRRUN PB pellets. Really, really liked this, and I had the next percents first, and I did do. I've done quite a bit of stuff in these. Just I did some track work. I've done some road stuff, and these are I don't know how to describe it, but they're fast. But I like the ride of this midsole better, and I can't totally tell you why. And that's total. This is 100% my opinion. Just something about it. I don't know if it's just like that. This like is as soft as it is. It still feels rigid enough that when I'm pushing off, I like that. Like that, I'm still getting some ground feel. Whereas with this, maybe I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Mystery. I mean, if you've tried both, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you have an opinion, or maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you're like, no, you're a lunatic. There's no possible way that midsole feels better. Just my thoughts. I do really, 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 really like this midsole. And an important note is on the Endorphion Pro 2s, the midsole and outsole are exactly the same. The Endorphin Pro 2 has a different upper. You're saving $50, and it's just all you're getting is a new upper on that shoe. It's a little lighter by 0.1, but something to consider. Okay, is it going to be worth it to save the $50, or should I just spend the extra $50 and get the Endorphin Pro 2s? But yeah, good deal. On the bottom of the shoe, they have their carbon rubber, which I really like the setup of the outsole. It kind of gives you enough that it's not really beating on the midsole a lot, but not so much that they're really like throwing on a bunch of weight just to save you some durability. After all, this is a shoe meant for competition. It's meant for racing. So it's all about performance. It's not going to be about, okay, we're throwing on a whole bunch of rubber. We want this thing to last forever. We want this shoe to perform as well as possible in race conditions. The outsole, to me, I think is going to last a really long time. This rubber, I mean, I could barely tell, aside from like just the discoloration of wearing it, you could barely tell that there's not even any noticeable wear spots, except for maybe like where I toe off. I think this is excellent. I really like this. I definitely think this would give you some trouble in wet conditions, but I don't really know how many competition road racing shoes are gonna be okay in wet conditions. I saw a couple reviews where some people said the RC Elites, that unique outsole that they've got on there seems to hold up pretty good in the rain. But I feel like that's an important thing to say, is that this is good in the dry, but maybe when it's wet, not so much. But I think that's going to be something you get in a lot of the shoes. I don't really see the next percents really doing too much better. Oh wait, I forgot. I did do a track workout in the pouring rain with these on, and they were fine on the track, but I don't know about on the road. They were totally fine on the track. These actually did hold grip well on the track, even in the rain. Rubber versus pavement. Let me know if you're running them in the rain on the roads. I'd really like to know what you think, how the outsole performed. Another important thing, generally larger stacked shoes. So you're getting a 39 stack in the heel, coming down to a 31, 8mm drop from heel to toe. But this is substantial, and with this squishier midsole, I did a mile at the end of my tempo, and I did an out and back where I ran a half mile out and turned, and I tried to take the turn kind of wide because I thought this would happen, but I took the turn and it was like a little tight, and it was awful. I could hear the midsole making all sorts of sounds. It was really fighting me. Like it's not good on like with turns. And I think if you're doing shorter races, like, you know, if I was doing a road 5K, even if I was just like making a turn on a road, if I wasn't to like go wide across to the other side of the street, I could definitely see this, like you're making a good amount of trouble for you with any tighter turns. But it's one of those other things where it's like, what's it for? The next percent certainly doesn't feel any better on turns either. But I think it's important to know, try to get all the things in there. And that was a big one where I kind of did this and I said, okay, I'll do an out and back just to see what that turn is like. And it was pretty rough. Like I was running like, I think like a 5:20 pace or something like that. And when I turned, I had to like put a full stop on almost and really like rotate, feel the shoe kind of fight me because that bigger stack height's trying to roll a little bit. Important. And then finally, the thing I think that is most important is it worth saving the $50 and getting the Endorphin Pro, or do I just spend the $200, get the Endorphin Pro 2? That is going to be a personal preference, and I will tell you why. The upper being different, if you had issues with the upper, if it was me and I had like a lot of issues with this upper and the new one feels good, I'm going to spend the extra $50. It's $50. You're paying for a high-level competition shoe. I'm going to spend the $50, so when I put it on my foot, I know that it's going to perform really well. I'm going to feel comfortable in it. And especially if these are meant for those longer races, do you really want to have like any kind of concern with your lockdown in a shoe if you're going out and running a half marathon? I know that I'm going to spend the $50 to feel better. But now, if you're talking about like what I'm using this for, so like I'm doing some 5Ks, some 10Ks, I'm not going out putting in a ton of miles, but I'm also looking for opportunities to get a shoe. Hey, it's marketed for those elite level athletes, but anybody could use them. They're going to benefit you in some way or another as long as you use them properly. I think it's definitely worth a purchase for the $50 discount. For sure. I don't think you're getting so much more out of the Endorphin Pro 2 that it's not worth considering this at the $50 discount. It makes it a lot more reasonable. And Running Warehouse, I know, still has a ton of the Endorphin Pro 1s on sale for $150. I went to my local running store and they right away, they gave me the same thing. They offered me to price match it and gave me the shoe for the same cost. And I'm always big on supporting the local running businesses. But yeah, in my opinion, I guess like what it all boils down to is I think it's worth it. It's worth the $150. It makes that price point more reasonable. You're looking at all these crazy carbon fiber shoes where you're spending $200+ all the time. And now all of a sudden we're in like that high-end trainer cost range. And if you want to add this to your rotation and it has a purpose for you, definitely worth it, for sure. And now where does that sit in your rotation? Like I said, for me, up tempo, but it's like, I'm talking about like 5K tempo paces. So like when I'm going out and I'm hitting my tempos like 540 pace, things like that, I'm throwing these on if I'm doing longer road efforts. Like I'm training for a 10K in a couple weeks, doing some more stuff on the road, doing some stuff on that's longer, but a little faster. It's fast enough that I feel like the shoe is really helping me out. It throws you forward. It gives you back so much energy with that carbon fiber plate. Doing a workout, if I were to do that same workout in just a regular pair of flats or in my trainers, that leg fatigue that you'd experience, it really, really helps with that. These bigger midsoles too. As we see these stack heights continue to get bigger and bigger. If you have any questions, please ask. Throw them in the comments. Maybe there's something that I missed or you know, something that you would consider when you're buying a shoe that I might not have touched on. I'm very happy with the purchase. I was glad that I picked it up. I saw the discount. I had the opportunity to get it, got the shoe, definitely worth it. It has a great spot in my rotation. It kind of will serve whatever purpose you need. That's kind of moving in that direction. That's going to be our first super shoe clearance review. The next one that's going to come up, which I'm excited to try, and I feel like I'm a little behind with this one, but the Carbon X ones, man, they're boats. I have a really weird feeling I'm going to like these, so I'm excited to try these, but that's what we're going to look forward to next. I'm going to start trying to test these a bit. This is going to save you a little bit of money. Is it really worth it? Thanks for checking in. Hopefully I'll see you for the next one.
You're hilariously still running at a speed that I can barely keep up with on a longboard.
Well, the goal is to kind of like make it feel as easy as possible for as long as possible. So